Everybody, I just wanted to share a couple thoughts. Today, I was shocked to read just maybe an hour ago that Christine McVie from Fleetwood Mac had died today. I guess we can say her age, 79. It was in the article, so 79. I was shocked. I thought to myself, man, that's got to be the biggest death since maybe David Bowie in music, you know. I mean, we've had a lot of deaths. The lead singer of Nazareth just died a few weeks ago, but and so many, you know, and you get so on the Facebook feeds or whatever, you know, the bass player of some band died today, or you know, just all the deaths we've seen. But this has got to be a major one that you just wonder if Fleetwood Mac will still be around. But I don't know. For some reason, I take these deaths hard, especially when it's someone I really like Christine McVie. And of course, it's not about us. It's really her friends, her family. But we are people who loved her music, so we kind of feel the loss. I felt the loss, and I'm sure I don't mean you sort of feel like part of you's dying, like part of your youth is dying or something, and it's sort of like your era is ending or something, and it's a very kind of finite feeling where you sense your own mortality when these people die that have been such major figures, and you for so many years you thought they'd be there forever, and then they die. And it was really sad when I saw that. I said, man, that was just sad. I saw Fleetwood Mac on September 19th, 1982 at the Joe Louis Arena. So one thing I thought, well, I almost had forgotten I'd seen that concert, but I thought to myself, well, I am glad I saw that. It wasn't a concert I remember that much. It was kind of a quiet night. You know, by 1982, Fleetwood Mac was kind of on the downslide from all those glory years in the mid and late 70s. So I don't remember that there were a ton of people at the concert. And I think Fleetwood Mac is actually one of those bands that got more and more popular in a way in the 90s with some of those VH1 specials and everything. We sort of forget that. I mean, they were around, but they went through a period where they kind of were huge. Then they kind of lulled. Then in the late 80s, I think, you know, they've all, I mean, I don't know the history of the band, and I'm not doing a documentary on Fleetwood Mac, but I do remember 1989, they were kind of, you had that sense kind of past their glory years. But then I think when they started coming back in the 90s, you know, people started to really realize, man, these guys are great. And so they've been, in a way, more popular and iconic, if I can use that word, since the 90s, I think, than they even were in the 70s. In the 70s, they were just probably one of the most popular FM rock bands, but I wouldn't say they were sort of these iconic, legendary figures like they became, you know. That's the test of time. Fleetwood Mac stood the test of time. But Christine McVie was Christine McVie was a really critical part of that band. She wasn't just a good singer. She wasn't just a good entertainer. She was a good musician, and she was a good songwriter. And, you know, there are a lot of good singers, and that's fine, you know, good singers, but they aren't necessarily good musicians. A lot of good entertainers. They aren't necessarily good musicians. By the way, sometimes those people are nice to have around, someone that can really do a show and belt them out. But she had it all. She was a great singer. She was a great songwriter, and she was an integral part of that band's playing lineup. You know, no matter how great your songs are, no matter how great a performer you are, you have to have good players that get up there and know how to play instruments. And she was a fine keyboardist, very professional, polished keyboardist. So I think at the end of the day, that's one of the best things I can think to say about her, is that she was a great musician, as well as also being, you know, in an entertaining pop band. She was a fine musician that played the parts on all those albums and wrote those songs. I think she wrote Warm Love. Did she write Secondhand News? The one I always think of is Bill Clinton, Don't Stop Thinking About Tomorrow. For some reason, whenever I hear that song now, I think of old Bill Clinton, kind of you know, back in 1992. And for some reason, I also think of Barbra Streisand. I don't know, but anyway, Bill Clinton used that in his 1992 campaign. And that wasn't just a Fleetwood Mac song. That was a Christine McVie song. And whatever your politics, that's a great message, and any politician of any stripe would embrace that message, to look for the future, to be optimistic, to be positive. And what a great artist. And like I said, when these people die, we don't know them. At least I'm speaking for myself, but I don't know them. They have friends and family that I'm sure are in absolute grief and mourning right now. But as a fan, you feel kind of like part of me just died. My youth, I grew up with these songs, running around town when I was 16, 17, 18, Christine McVie, Fleetwood Mac songs. I saw them in concert. They've been on the radio. And once again, how many times, well, I guess I'll go see Fleetwood Mac. Well, I missed this tour. Maybe I'll catch them next time. Then one day you turn around and half the band's dead. And you realize, oh, I blew my chance. I can't go see them. But that was a hard loss. Like I said, probably like Glenn Frey or David Bowie on a level of those deaths. And she was just a terrific figure in music history. She was a woman. I don't know if that matters. It shouldn't matter, but she was a woman. I remember reading that Mick Fleetwood came up to her and asked her if she'd mind Stevie Nicks joining the band, because then there would be two women in the band. And I guess that says something about rock and roll, that was seen as unusual, and it shouldn't matter. And it didn't matter, because when you really have your focus on music, none of that kind of stuff matters. All the categories we stick people in today, it was about the music, and people brought their own individual identities to the band, and that added to it, but that never defined the band. That they had two female singers, like it was some kind of novelty or sociology experiment or something. It was just they were the right people for that band. But she really brought something very special. I think she was kind of more the quiet one. Stevie Nicks tended to get a little more of the limelight, but certainly not second fiddle in any way, shape, or form, musically or otherwise. Christine McVie was an excellent figure in music. And like I said, I just hate to see these people die, and I kind of wanted to just share my thoughts. Thanks. God bless.